Are the Democrats headed for extinction? Well, that's a question that's being seriously considered by a number of commentators who see the Democrats going the way of the Whigs. Here's a quick history lesson. The Whig Party was one of the two great American political parties of its time. It stood alongside the Democratic Party in the mid-19th century, and it produced 4 U.S. presidents: William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, Zachary Taylor, and Millard Fillmore. Notwithstanding these rather impressive achievements, nevertheless, the Whig Party managed to destroy itself and was dissolved in 1854, just 21 years after its founding, being replaced in effect by the Republican Party. So going the way of the Whigs refers to a party that is on its way to extinction, only to be replaced by another party. And many are asking today whether the Democrats are on this primrose path, especially after something like this.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please?
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Now, if you don't know what that was all about, that was Democrat Representative Bill Keating having a total meltdown over the Republican chair referring to the transgender Congress member, Sarah McBride, as Mr. And McBride's fellow Democrat had a complete and total meltdown over this Republican chair daring to misgender his colleague. Now, even fellow Democrats like Bill Maher are completely at a loss as to why the Democrats have chosen this trans hill to die on. Even CNN concurs.
Such a clear trend among the American public. So transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything, but they do, in fact, agree on the idea of opposing transgender female athletes in women's sports.
In an almost identical find, the latest Harvard-Harris poll found that nearly 70% of voters supported the Trump administration, declaring that there are only two genders. And this all points to the wider trend of the collapse of all things woke. Support for wokeness, which involves the reconfiguration of society to accommodate the sentiments of what the left deems as marginalized and vulnerable communities, support for that reconfiguration has completely and totally collapsed. While voters certainly want everyone treated with dignity, they no longer have any patience with what some are calling suicidal empathy, which involves the endless accommodating of these communities, such as allowing trans athletes to compete in women's sports or the total demonization of misgendering and the like. Support for such has completely imploded, as if it ever existed at all. And so what the Democrats are doing here in doubling down on wokeness is they're planting their flag firmly on the side of what we call the 20%. They are actively and publicly opposing what 80% of voters want, which is akin to political suicide. But it doesn't stop there. The Democrats are on the 20% side of virtually every single issue. Revolver has a great piece up entitled "Dems Are Caught in the 80-20 Loop and It's Killing Them." And what this article details is the astonishing contrast between the politics of Trump and the politics of the Democrats. So whereas Trump has planted his flag with the 80% on virtually every issue, right? Border security, mass deportations, the total elimination of waste, fraud, and abuse from government. DOGE is very, very popular. Reciprocal tariffs, the freezing of foreign aid, energy independence, banning trans athletes from female sports and the like. Whereas Trump has sided with the 80% on virtually every single issue, Democrats, by contrast, are planting their flag with the radical extreme 20%. Case in point, just literally hours before President Trump's epic speech before the nation, every single Democrat senator, yes, including the fraud Fetterman, every single one of them voted against and blocked the bill to keep men out of women's sports. It's being called the 80-20 loop. It's a doom loop. And we're already seeing how this loop is dooming the Democrats for the future. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, the crypto revolution is here. President Trump vows to make America the crypto capital of the world. And that means you do not want to miss out on the most significant wealth transfer happening right now before your very eyes. Turley Talks Crypto provides the safest, most secure way to protect your retirement accounts with world-class proven strategies. Backed by AI-driven technology, TurleyTalksCrypto.com has delivered 650% returns to everyday Americans over the past 4 years. Don't let the financial elites keep you from your share, whether through an IRA or direct cash investment. Turley Talks Crypto offers a secure path to capitalize on the crypto revolution. Click on the link below or visit TurleyTalksCrypto.com today to learn more. That's TurleyTalksCrypto.com, where true Americans secure their financial future. Perhaps the single most devastating factor of the future of the Democrats involves the mass defection of young voters away from their party. Now, according to JL Partners in the Daily Mail, Trump is currently polling at his highest level ever. His approval now is a staggering 54%, a +8 over his disapproval. But what was even more astonishing with this poll is the demographic that appears to be bolstering these numbers. Our good friend Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024, is corroborating the findings of the Daily Mail poll. It's youngest voters, voters under the age of 40, that are giving Trump his highest support, upwards of 60% approval. 60% among an age demographic that had voted for Biden by a margin of 30% back in 2020. No other age group comes close to this level of support. And this defection has possibly profound consequences for the future of the Democrat Party. And ironically, it's actually the inverse of what a number of liberal left-wing scholars predicted. One of the most popular political theories among liberal scholars was something called the cultural backlash thesis. And it argued that the only reason why Trump and the nationalist populists like him around the world, particularly in Europe, were winning their elections was because it was the last hurrah of old, dying white men. Old, dying white men hate this new world of progressive politics, this new progressive woke world that's inevitably rising around them. And so they're voting for the most extreme radical right candidates to push back against this inevitable demographic sea change. But the key to this thesis is that if you want to know what the political future is going to be like, just look at how the youth vote is voting. How the youngest voters are voting is a harbinger of the political future. And given that, and this is the thesis, given that the youth vote was overwhelmingly liberal up until this past November, these left-wing scholars predicted that the days of Trump and the Republicans were inevitably going to end. But now, as it turns out, it's actually the inverse of that. With this mass defection of the youth vote to the right, it now appears that it's the demise of the Democrats that's inevitable. It's their voters who are dying off, all as younger voters turn more and more to the populist right. Rich Barris of the People's Pundit, the single most accurate pollster from 2024, said it this way, quote, "Ages 44 and below are consistently Trump's strongest group, especially those 18 to 29. It's just weird how everything has turned upside down in our politics. Yeah, weird and deadly if we're talking about the future of the Democrat Party. The irony here is that if we apply the rationale of the cultural backlash thesis to the Democrats, then this generational shift is indeed the death knell for the future of their party. The 80-20 loop is already decimating their future vote. And if that's the case, then unless something drastically changes, it does appear the Democrats are going the way of the Whigs. They are indeed on the primrose path to political extinction. By the way, click on the link in the description below to get all these articles and tweets I reference throughout my videos emailed to you each and every day. You're going to love it. We want you to have the best resources out there to convince your family and your friends of this new MAGA super age that's rising here.